Hi, this is Vicky from the Spellbound Bead Company, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a simple macrame bracelet. So I'm using seal-on thread and some size 6 seed beads. These are from our size 6 chalk mix that we've got. It's quite nice because it's got a really lovely selection of bright colours in. So if you just want to make some little quick bracelets, this is a really nice way to do it. So what I've done is I've taken 2 half-metre lengths of black seal-on, and I've tied a knot about 1/4 of the way down, just to stop the beads sliding up and down. And I've then threaded on 10 size 6 seed beads. I've then got another length of cord, and this is 1.5 meters long, which may be a little bit on the long side, but with knotting it's always better to have too much rather than too little. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half, and then I'm going to use a dressmaker's pin, and I'm just going to pin just under that knot between the 2 cords into my mat. I'm then going to take the long length of cord, and I'm going to put it behind that knot around the pin so that I've got 2 lengths. So let's just put a second pin in just to hold everything steady, and put that one across there. Okay. You've got a macrame board to work on, that would help, but you don't need one. So I'm just going to pull these beads down the thread a little bit, just out of the way, while we get the first couple of knots done. So I'm going to do a knot called a square knot. Now it's important to pay attention to which way you tie these knots, because otherwise you'll end up with them twisting, which is pretty. It gives you a really nice decorative effect, but for this particular design we want to keep them flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie a knot in the bottom of the cord that's on the left hand side when we start, just so I know which one that is, and that cord is always going to make the top half of the knots. So we're going to go over the core, which is this central bead here, and then we're going to go under the cord that's on the right hand side. We're then going to take that cord underneath the 2 cores and then up through this loop that's been formed with on the left hand side here. There we go. And then we're going to pull that up nice and tight, and that's the first half of your square knot made. Now the second half, we're going to take the end that's got the knot in it, and we're going to take that again over the core and under the other knotting thread. We're going to take that knotting thread under the core and up. Okay, so that's one complete square knot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie another 2 of those, just to give us a nice sturdy start to the bracelet. So again, we'll take the cord with the knotting over and under, and we take the other cord under and through. Okay, so that's half the knot. So cord with the knot over and under, and the other cord, under and through, and that's the second knot completed. Okay, and third knot, so over and under and through. Okay, and then under and through. And there's 3 square knots in a row. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to bring up 1 bead, and then we're going to tie a square knot underneath it. So you will have a tiny little bit of cord sitting on either side. So under and through. Now this is where you can use, you've got to be careful, because what you want to do is you want to pull the knot so that it sits nicely underneath the bead to stop the bead moving, but you don't want to pull it too tight, because if you do, what will happen is these cords will sit behind the bead and you'll end up with a bobble sitting in your work, which is you know, not what we want for this particular bracelet. I'm just going to put a pin in and loosen that knot back off again. And do that so it sits just underneath. Remember, that's half the knot. So the second half of the knot, I'm going to do the same thing. Under. And there. So that's the second half of the knot. And I'm going to bring up the next bead. These, once you get into the rhythm of this, it's actually quite quick. So those make really nice little gifts if you're doing sort of school fetes or charity fairs or things like that. They're just quick enough and easy enough that you can make them, and you can make them quite cheaply. You know, a reel of seal on, you're looking £2.95, and a pot of seed beads, you're looking about £1.50. So, and that will make you tons of bracelets, which is the technical term. So you've got lots to be going on with, so you can make them and sell them at pocket money prices, which is great for fundraising and things like that, or for quick Christmas presents, summer presents to remind you of your holiday. So you can make this with slightly longer cords, and then it'd be long enough to make an anklet as well. So if you want to make it longer, ankles are bigger than people think, so just make sure you check it. You don't want to make it too tight. So just keep going down here for a minute. And I've just picked a random selection of colours as well, but obviously you could do this in an all-in-one colour theme, or you know, just use a single colour of size 6s. You could use 2 colours of cord if you wanted to, so you make each knotting cord a different colour, and then what you'd get is one colour that sits on the top, another colour that sits underneath, and then they'd alternate down the sides. That's a pretty cool effect. So you can do that. You can just do the square knots on their own using something like cotton thonging. 1mm cotton thonging will make you some lovely sort of, I don't want to say chunky bracelets, but sort of bracelets that you can see. So a little bit thicker, which is really nice. Actually, I find them really comfortable to wear. So, okay, so we're halfway there. We'll just keep going. And under. And as you can see, this is all lying nice and flat, which is good because it means all my knots are going in the same direction. So, that. And keep going. So this is a really good thing for doing sort of in front of the telly as well, you know. If you, whoops. Okay, half the knot. And the second half. Just make sure you pull that. Yeah. Just make sure you keep your core threads lying flat as well. They can twist, so just make sure you try and keep those lying flat. Okay. Oops. That's got it. So, right, so I think 1.5 meters might have been a little bit too much thread to use here. I've probably got away with 1 meter, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. Now, because I'm after this last bead here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie the 3 full square knots so that it matches the other end. under. So that's 1. And a half. And that's 2. And that's 3. Okay. There. So that's your 3rd knot. Now I'll come back to finishing off these thread ends in a minute. We'll go on to putting the sliding knot on here. Now, if we just undo that pin and undo those 2 pins there. Now what we can do at this point is actually pull these beads so they sit more in the centre of the work, which will make it easier. So if you just pull on your core beads, as long as your knots aren't too tight, you should be able to slide your work down the core slightly. There we go. So that will sit more in the centre, which will make this next step a bit easier. So what we're going to do is we're just going to untie this overhand knot that's here. So this is why you tie it quite loosely. That was only there just to stop the beads falling off the other end of the thread. So there's 1 and there's 2. Okay, so to make the fastener, we're going to tie some more square knots around these 2 cores. So we're going to bring the cores in this way. I'm going to bring the cores in that way, and now it's quite important that you keep these lying flat and parallel next to one another. You don't want them to cross over, because if they do that, it's going to make your knot not slide so nicely. So if you've got the 4 cords lying parallel to one another, and we're just going to pin those in place again. So these are just little dressmaker's pins. If you've got any sort of pin, or a safety pin even will work as well. Okay, and then I've got another 50 centimetres here of the same black Ceylon, and what we're going to do is we're going to take it underneath so that it's sitting centrally, and then I'm just going to stick a pin in just to give us a little bit of tension for the first half of the knot. Okay, now you need to make sure when you tie this knot, I'm just going to put the indicator knot into the end of the thread again, just so I know which is which. When you tie this knot, you don't want it to be too tight, because if it's really firm, it's not going to slide. And this is basically there so that your cords can slide through and fit. So first half of the square knot, so we're going over and under, and we're going under and through. Just move that end out of the way. So you want it reasonably firm, but not overly tight. And then the second half of the knot. There. And we're going to tie ourselves between 6 and 8 knots down here. Again, remembering that 2 passes of the thread is 1 complete knot. So that's 2. Now, this is quite handy. Can you see here that this has got twisted? So that's not going to make your knot properly. So if we just pull that end back out, undo that knot and try it again. Okay, so we're going over and under, and we're going under all 4 and up. Okay, there you have it. There's your knot. So that's 2, 3, 4, And I'll just try and hold that down a bit better. Just put another pin in there. That's better. So that's 4. Take your time with this, try and get it nice and even. 4. Oops. That's 5. 6. Now if you wanted to, you could actually do this using a thicker bead for the cord, a thicker cord for the core thread here, so just something like a 1mm cotton thongin if you wanted to. So rather than having the 2 strands, you just have one thicker strand. So second half of the knot. What happens when you're talking and not concentrating? There we go. And we'll just tie one more for luck. Up. Over. And under. Okay. So that's that last knot tied there. And what we can do is just check that it's going to move along the cord, or that the cord will move through the knot. So if we just, now this is well careful, we don't want to do this and pull the end of the thread out of the knot. So yeah, that's going to slide that way. And this is one of those things that will ease up a little bit as you're doing it as well. So need to finish off your knotting threads. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to tie an overhand knot just to bring both of the thread ends to the same side there, and then I'm going to dab it, and this is the same as you'll do with this cord here, with some clear nail varnish. You could use PVA glue, but clear nail varnish is handy because it does come in with its own little applicator brush. So we're just going to dab some nail varnish just onto the end there. Okay, and we'll do the same on here as well. I'll just dab some clear nail varnish on the end there, on that side, and this will sort of stick the end of the knot together. It also stops the cords, or helps stop the cords from fraying. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just get a couple of the size 6 seeds. Let's have a bit more variety in colour, shall we? And so this is where you've got to be careful to make sure you trim the right knots. So we're going to trim, ideally wait for this nail varnish to dry before you do this. So we'll trim that end off there, get rid of that one, and we'll trim that end there and get rid of that one. Now we'll trim those 2 ends, so there, whoops, oh, blimey, and there. I'll just trim that a little bit closer. Okay, so there's your bracelet. I would trim those a bit more closely, but I just need to wait for the nail varnish to dry first. And then onto these core beads here, just going to tie, thread on, a size 6 seed bead, and we're going to tie a double knot because it's a little bit chunkier. So we're going to go around once, twice, and then we're going to take this through the knot, oops, through the loop, and pull it out there, and it's going to make a slightly bigger knot and that means that your size 6 bead won't fall off the end. That's probably going to be a bit long, but it's better to start by making them a bit long because you can always trim them back. If you start by cutting these too short, you've got nowhere to go. So I'll put that one on. And again, a double knot. And 3. And you can have these different lengths if you want. You don't have to have them all the same length. Do the same on this side. Yellow. Double knot. And 3. Just tidy that up with your fingers. And the last one, let's go red. Put that one on. And do a double knot. And 3. And then again, you'll now varnish your knots, and then when they've set, I'll just trim these down. So, oops, my aim with these scissors isn't very good. There, and there you have your completed macrame bracelet. And just grab a hold and pull. Yeah, those are definitely a bit on the long side there, but we'll trim those down later. So there we go, one finished macrame bracelet.